The Indian Army believed they were tracking a Yeti.
I can't imagine a 3-hour trek underneath a Sasquatch's arms going to be too comfortable. For 3 hours! Three whole hours!
He's travelled around the world, visited a lot of different places that are said to have their own equivalent of a Bigfoot-like creature.
We're going to get into those in a little while. Hey guys, how's it going? Duty, I'm back with the Drip podcast, and today we're going cryptids. I'm joined by Bailey, Lozzie, and Scott. Now, Scott, you're very, very crucial because you've interviewed like a professor of Bigfoot or something, haven't you?
Yeah. So I've interviewed Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who is a professor of anatomy and anthropology, I believe.
Okay.
With a specialty in bipedal movement, which is the movement of hominids.
Okay.
Basically, he has a very strong interest in muscular tension, walking, generally the movement of apes and humans and, creatures like that.
Okay, that's interesting. So a man based in science, based in the correct science, with a very, very vast interest in Bigfoot, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And obviously head over to Tepper's Paranormal and give that interview a listen after this episode. But what has he found? Without giving away too much of your own episode, but what has he, does he have the smoking gun?
So from the interview I did with him, we spoke about quite a few different bits. He's travelled around the world, visited a lot of different places that are said to have their own equivalent of a Bigfoot-like creature.
We're going to get into those in a little while.
So he sort of said Bigfoot is apparently just the North American ones.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then the rest of the world have different names.
Not the Nepalese Yeti.
So it's Bigfoot. So they're saying Bigfoot is strictly an American-only thing.
Yeah, I think it's sort of it's a weird one where to most people Bigfoot is just Bigfoot, but to him Bigfoot is the North American variant of the Yeti-like creature.
Okay, so so we're basically we're saying there's subspecies.
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, I'll tell you what. As you've took us there, I'll push it ahead of schedule. Only slightly. It was Article 2, Loz. We're starting with Article 2.
We're not going in sequence anymore. It's completely fucked.
No.
I'll take the blame for that.
So we're going to go with Newsweek.com's guide to deciphering the differences between a Yeti, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and more.
Wow.
Fucking get in.
Okay.
Yes. So for decades, dedicated group of men and women have vowed to drag into the light their mysterious quarry, Bigfoot and mysterious beasts that inspire books, movies, and research. So that's what we're going to look at. Okay. So, as you're saying, is Bigfoot its own thing? Is it a species? Is it a subspecies? Well, apparently, we'll begin with Sasquatch. The term Sasquatch has become the most universally respected name for the enigmatic primate / person hybrid, derived from the Halcomelum dialectal word Sisquak, meaning wild man. The word was first used by the Coast Salish peoples. These indigenous peoples inhabited the Fraser Valley in the Pacific Northwest and parts of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, two regions that have yielded more recorded Sasquatch sightings than anywhere else. Then we have Bigfoot, our boy Bigfoot. Perhaps the most common shorthand for Sasquatch, the term Bigfoot first came about in 1958, which Article 1 is how the Bigfoot legend came to be. So we'll get more into that in a second. So, 1958, Gerald Crew, a Bluff Creek local in Del Norte County, California, was featured in the Humboldt Times for the cast he made of large footprints found near his bulldozer. Fellow Bluff Creek, just for a second, can you imagine you return to your bulldozer and forget about the footprints? Imagine there is a Sasquatch driving your bulldozer.
I knew that's exactly where you were going with that, and I still weren't ready for it.
Imagine that.
Sasquatch in a JCB.
Just the new labourer, mate.
Just in a hard hat. What was that?
Just
What
ready
was
to
that
go.
show? Oh, what was that show? Is it George? No. Was it
Hang on.
George? The Sasquatch? Do you remember that show?
George the
It was like a
Sasquatch.
it was like a
George
it was
the
like a sitcom.
Sasquatch.
It was like a sitcom. Ah, we're going on tangent. Hang on. You'll
George the
definitely know it.
Sasquatch.
George.
About a
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch. He like joins a family. Harry and the Hendersons, is it that?
That's very different.
Yeah,
to George
Harry
the
and the
Sasquatch.
Hendersons.
He's talking about Barney.
Oh,
think.
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, Harry and the Hendersons.
I've got
Basically,
No idea.
No.
this Google it, honestly, this fuck off Sasquatch just like look, a human family adopts a Sasquatch as their pet. Comedy, family, fantasy TV series from 1991 to 1993.
That looks horrific.
5.6 out of 10.
Yeah, no. I have seen that. Yeah.
Their top rated episode is 8 out of 10. The old
Gosh.
Bigfoot. Harry brings home an old Bigfoot, so the family consults Dr. Arneson. But anyway, we're getting off topic. But yeah,
I think it's
I'd
too late to be
imagine-
getting off topic.
I'd imagine he would drive a bulldozer.
He would have a high vis on as well, mate.
Definitely. So fellow Bluff Creek locals began referring to the mysterious maker of the tracks as Bigfoot, which Humboldt Times editor Andrew Genzoli decided to stylize as Bigfoot. Hang on a minute. So it's like Bigfoot, like with a gap in the middle, and then he just thought, fuck that gap, fuck the space, bring it together,
That's it.
bosh, Bigfoot. The term has earned considerable recognition since then, particularly in its use by the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, one of the most wildly respected groups of Bigfooters. Now, we have the Yeti, and we will have a story that went viral in, I believe, 2019, where the Indian Army believed they were tracking a Yeti. So the Yeti, though commonly associated with Sasquatch, the Yeti is an entirely different entity. Oh, there we go. This creature's origin can be traced back to pre-Buddhist Eastern civilizations, particularly in the Himalayan mountain region. Unlike the Sasquatch, who is most frequently spotted in warm and mild climates, the Yeti is believed to be an Arctic creature that is usually described as resembling a bear more than an ape. Some early indigenous people of the Himalayas would worship what became known as the Yeti, calling it the glacier being. So apparently they're not the same.
Okay, okay. So I understand the difference between a Yeti and a Bigfoot. Obviously, we've seen like different things about Yeti. They normally have like a white fur, whereas a Bigfoot would have more like a brown fur. And this one's described as a bear more than an ape, right? So there's differences between them, right? The other ones, they just sound like the same thing. Like it's just in different parts of the world.
Yeah, the way I'm getting it so far is that Sasquatch is sort of the overarching type of creature, and then you get your Bigfoot and your Yeti and the other things that we'll have on this list underneath that.
But it does say that although commonly associated with Sasquatch, the Yeti is actually an entirely different entity.
Yeah, so I think it's like
it could be a case of like, what is it? I have part of it in my DNA. Is it Neanderthal?
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's the species that was wiped out by the humans? It is Neanderthal, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
because I
sounds-
have a
that
little bit
sounds
of
right.
Neanderthal in me. Yeah. So what I'm saying is this could be like, human and Neanderthal, kind of similar species, but actually
yeah.
not at all.
Okay.
But yes, that's where the Yeti is. Abominable snowman. The term abominable snowman was first coined in 1921 by Henry Newman, a contributor to the English language newspaper, The Statesman. Newman interviewed participants in the British Mount Everest reconnaissance expedition who encountered large footprints that their guides declared were left by what they called Meto Kangmi. While Kangmi doesn't translate to snowman, Meto actually translates to man bear.
Man bear pig.
Oh, yeah.
In writing his piece, Newman mistranslated the term to filthy. Filthy man bear, which he then swapped out for abominable. One and the same with the Yeti, the abominable snowman is generally regarded as an illusory being of the Far Eastern Hemisphere and not interchangeable with the Sasquatch. So basically, I think you got Sasquatch and Bigfoot, and then you've got Yeti and abominable snowman.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But the thing is, with the Yeti and the abominable snowman, if it's bear-like, then it's not bipedal, is it?
No.
I guess it depends on how bear-like, because bears can obviously stand and
They
walk on their
can.
rear
Yeah,
legs.
but a bear footprint would be dramatically different like from an ape's footprint.
Yeah, so I guess the
Seeing
generic
them, like, you know, if you was to maybe if you saw one walking past, I mean, I've seen bears stand up on their hind legs. I've never seen one maybe walk on two legs. Maybe they do. I don't know. But
Bailey,
them.
I'm going to show you a fucking Yeti footprint in a minute, mate.
Nice.
There you
From
go.
the Indian Army. But before we get there, let's go back to the start of the origin of Bigfoot, shall we?
Yes.
So if you want to go to Article 1 from history.com. And obviously, as you know, guys, chime in whenever you like. Also, Scott, if you have anything to add, like, you know, that professor guy said this about this, and that'd be amazing. So what exactly are the origins of Bigfoot? In 1958, a journalist, as we have discussed, of the Humboldt Times highlighted a fun, if dubious, letter from a reader about loggers in North Carolina who discovered mysteriously large footprints. Maybe we have a relative of the abominable snowman of the Himalayas, Genzoli jokingly wrote in his September 21st column. So that's quite interesting. So from what I gauge from that, what came first, Sasquatch or the Yeti? It's actually the Yeti. I mean, we did just read that it's, you know, it's ancient Eastern folklore.
Yeah,
But
so there's a lot of like 1,000-year-old sightings in your more sort of Asian parts of the world. I want to say there's China specifically. I think China has a tribe of what are called hairy men who lived, or at one point lived off in the mountains on their own, sort of independent of everyone else, and they were described by locals in a village as essentially being the perfect description of a Bigfoot or a Yeti.
Okay.
Who would occasionally come into the village to get food or to, you know, trade, and then would disappear back off into the mountains.
That's interesting. So it's just a tribe of humans that essentially decided to rough it a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess, you know,
else.
two separate tribes that went completely different ways for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously you would see changes, I assume, in that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, this is a fucking, now we're falling off a cliff. The Descent. That was humans that moved underground, and then thousands of years later, they're a little bit funky. So this could be what's happening here. Could be what's happening here. I'm not being funny. When it comes to Bigfoot, and the amount of sightings that are in national parks, and the amount of mountains that are in national parks, and the amount of cave systems that are in national parks, you know, could not necessarily be like humans that thought, oh, fuck this, I'm going into the mountains, but it could have been like an ape subset that's gone off into the mountains. Very interesting. But yeah, so Gazzoli said he simply thought the mysterious footprint made a good Sunday morning story, but to his surprise, it fascinated readers. He's like, oh, bollocks, of all the things to go viral, why did it have to be this? But yeah, so a report on the name loggers had given to the so-called creature who left the tracks, Bigfoot was born. The legend of Bigfoot.
Those loggers were so creative.
Yeah, that's a big foot. God damn, Jerry.
There are various wild.
That is a big foot. Look at that. There are various wild man myths from all over the world, says Jonathan Blobus, author of Bigfoot: The Life and Times of a Legend. In Western Canada, the St'Ales First Nation have the Saskets, the supposed origin of the word Sasquatch. However, the modern US concept of Bigfoot can be traced quite directly to the stories of 1958. So there we go. We have our answer. It was in 1958. People later go back and dig through old newspapers and stuff and find scattered reports of a wild man here and a wild man there, but it doesn't coalesce into a general discussion until the 50s. So, okay, it wasn't the 50s. So it was just like here and there, we're getting stories. So it's a bit like folk tale, I guess. And then, can we scroll back up to the foot?
Yes.
I mean, that's bosh. That is a Bigfoot.
That's what it says on the tin.
Obviously, could definitely be, faked, but at the same time, it could be legit. And do we know what size foot that is?
I was just about to ask that
That's a
because
10.
I'm pretty sure, like, well, from that, seeing that doesn't look as like there's no way that's come from a human to some of the pictures of like a Bigfoot's footprint that I've seen before. Do you know what I mean? Like that could quite easily be like Shaquille O'Neal's foot, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite possible.
But then Shaquille O'Neal's 7 foot, isn't he? Which I think is
Yes.
how big Bigfoot was or is. What size is the Bigfoot foot? So the enormous footprints for which the creature is named are claimed to be as large as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide.
Jesus. That's a large foot.
That's a large foot. What's
That
that?
is
What's
a
that in shoe size?
Bigfoot.
It is.
Yeah.
Hang on, so let's have a look. 18-inch foot in shoe size.
That's a big old cleat you got to put on that foot.
I thought it was a 24-inch foot.
24-inch long.
What?
24-inch.
I was a 24 inch. Like, how did I just? Wow, I literally. Where the fuck did I just get 18 from?
8 inches wide.
Yeah, 8 inches
Is
wide
how-
and 24 long.
That's crazy. I don't think we're going to get an answer, but no, we're not going to get an answer. But I can tell you that 6 inches is a size 8 in the US. So
Wow.
it's a pretty big foot. It's a pretty goddamn big foot, is what I'll say. But if anyone knows, if anyone's like worked in a shoe shop out there and knows off the top of their head, let us know.
Okay, hang on.
There's a video playing. Why is that there? Ugh, feel sick.
So, a 15-inch foot or 15.5-inch foot from heel
Yeah.
to toe would be a size 24.
What?
That's insane.
According to this chart that I've just found, with no prior research whatsoever to back up if the information is true, that's what that comes
The
out.
website I've just stumbled across says Bigfoot would wear anything from a size 21 and up.
Whoa.
That's
Okay.
So,
fairly
that
big.
adds up.
We're fucking with a big boy here.
That's it.
That's interesting. So now we know the origins. There was a bulldozer. There was a large foot.
It's a perfect
and the
origin
Bigfoot
story.
was born.
It
It
is
really
a
is.
perfect origin story.
It really is. Right. So let's go to one of the most famous abduction stories now. You can bring it back to the main screen. I'll read this in the privacy of my own home. Because I feel like the people of the internet want to see our faces a little bit clearer. Okay, so this is about Albert Ostman. Albert Ostman was a Canadian prospector. And in 1924, he was abducted by a Sasquatch and held captive for 6 whole days.
Sheesh.
This took place near Tobler Inlet in British Columbia. And as you'll hear throughout this podcast, British Columbia keeps coming up when it comes to Sasquatch. So it's a little short story, but it'll get the point across. In 1924, Albert Ostman, a lumberjack and woodsman, don't know what the difference is, went to the area for a vacation. Ostman had heard stories about the man-beasts who supposedly roamed these woods but refused to believe them. As Ostman lay asleep one evening, a Sasquatch purportedly picked him up and carried him off while he was in his sleeping bag. Osman was carried in his sleeping bag across country for 3 hours by a Sasquatch. Bailey, the man was terrified.
So sorry. But there's just a man trapped in a sleeping bag underneath a Sasquatch's arm.
Fucking hell!
For 3 hours. Three whole hours. He was just...
And you got to think the stride of this thing. He's gonna make some ground in 3 hours.
Jesus Christ! 3 hours. Okay, carry on.
So, the Sasquatch dropped Osman down on a plateau.
Okay.
Standing around him was a family of 4 of the creatures. Albert was kept captive by the Sasquatch. The captors were 2 adults and 2 children, which held Osman captive for the 6 days. One of the Bigfoots was reported as being 8 feet tall. Osman did not use his gun on them, as they had done him no harm.
I mean, well,
They've
I can't imagine
stolen you.
I can't imagine a 3-hour trek underneath a Sasquatch's arms going to be too comfortable.
Might have been over the shoulder.
Wait,
Might have been over the shoulder.
Probably doesn't say, but did he have his gun with him in the sleeping bag?
He's got yeah.
He's got
Always.
a piece in his.
Always,
packing,
Lozzie.
mate.
Come on, always.
Conceal and carry, mate.
That's what
Conceal and carry.
That's what the Bigfoot did to him.
At what point do you decide you are going to open fire?
He was rolled up like a spliff in a fucking sleeping bag.
That's what I look.
Sasquatch
He just brought it back for his family. Like, I brought a red spliff for everyone. What a legend!
Way.
At that point, that man is essentially a roll of sushi.
It is.
Yes.
100%. He's just rolled up.
He is. Okay, so the captors were 2 adults, 2 children, right? And he's got his gun, but he's like, I'm not gonna kill these fools. They ain't done anything to me. So he stayed with the Bigfoot family for a week.
Right. Okay. Also, he probably realised that like what kind of gun he had, the caliber of bullet he had probably wouldn't take down an 8-foot Sasquatch.
He's
Probably not worth the hassle, to be fair. He's only taking out his little
caliber.
22 long rifle. Yeah. He's like, yeah, no chance.
So he stayed with them for a week, right? And he ate sweet tasting grass that they gave him. According to Osman, according to Osman, the female Sasquatch washed and stacked leaves. Albert escaped by making the large male Sasquatch groggy by feeding him some snuff.
What?
Hang on.
What's snuff?
Huh?
Did you say snuff?
Yeah, so snuff is a type of smokeless tobacco product made from finely ground or pulverized tobacco leaves.
Right.
It is snorted or sniffed into the nasal cavity, delivering nicotine and a flavored scent to the user. Traditionally, it is sniffed or inhaled lightly after a pinch of snuff is either placed onto the back surface of the hand. Let me just open this up. Where are we at? Of the hand, held pinched between thumb and index finger, or held by a specifically made snuffing device. So it's very common in the 17th century. So there we go. He used snuff to escape, right? He did not tell his story for more than 24 years after it happened for fear of being thought of being crazy. As more Sasquatch stories appeared in the press, Albert decided to tell his story to a local newspaper, The Province, in 1957.
Right, okay, well, I would be telling people the day I got back, being, listen, 2 days down that road, mate, obviously 3 hours for a Sasquatch, 2 days walk for me, down that road, there is a family of giant beings just kidnapping people, washing leaves, mate.
Yeah.
You should probably come have a little look. Don't go camping around there because they'll steal you and try and smoke you in your sleeping bag. Just go have a look. The day I got back, literally the very same day.
I say get the 50 cal.
Get the damn 50 cal, boys. We're going hunting, boy.
I mean, 24 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have made it 25. But...
I mean, after that much time, what is the thing that makes you go, tell you what, today's the day?
Yeah, that's
also,
a great point.
How much more mental does it sound for someone to say, by the way, 24 years ago, I was rolled up in a spliff by a Bigfoot, and a family of Bigfoot just kept me there for a week. Just thought I'd let you know.
I got what you mean.
Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, my wife, who I've been with for the last 30 years, I never told you this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then
Well,
what
no,
the fuck?
apparently it's because more Sasquatch stories appeared in the
Right.
press. and
Okay,
it was
so
like,
you just wanted
well,
to jump
okay.
on the fucking hype train then.
yeah.
I
The
mean, I guess
problem-
that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but the biggest issue I have, is, I mean, I've only been on this planet 29 years, and obviously, so my memory when I was 5 is shit anyway. But like, that's a long time for a
Yeah.
memory to get
Yeah,
warped.
but
Yeah.
I don't think
100%.
I don't think you'd be forgetting that though.
So 3 hours, more like 5-10 minutes. Let's put it that way. Yeah. 4 Sasquatches, just one giant man keeping him out of a storm, probably.
And
Do
a
you know what I
bag,
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and a bag full of mushrooms.
and a bag full of mushrooms. He just
Well,
got
this
taken by a
is-
bear.
Yeah, I mean, there in here it says in 2007 the skeptic Joe Nickell, who is an American skeptic and investigator of the paranormal, characterized the story as more likely the result of imagination than of recollection. Critics of Osman note that he did not make the event public until 1957, and primatologist John Napier states that Osman's story fails to convince me primarily on the grounds of the limited food resources available. He did say he was only eating grass, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
I think, if that happens to you, just speak to a friend. Don't
Just tell
bottle it
someone.
down for 24 years.
Yeah.
Just tell someone about
There's
it.
probably a phone number you can call now.
There probably is a Sasquatch
Yeah.
kidnap helpline.
Yeah,
0800 Bigfoot.
That's it.
that's it.
That's it. But yeah. So that is Albert Osman's story. Now I want to go over to an army. We're going over to Yeti now, or Abominable Snowman. So this went viral. I somehow missed it. The Indian Army tweeted this, in April of 2019.
Okay.
So, Army finds evidence of abominable snowman as mysterious footprints discovered. The abominable snowman has been long rumoured to be lurking high in the mountain ranges. One group of Army soldiers found footprints they believe belonged to a Yeti, but they were mocked over their claims. And when I say mocked, I mean the world mocked them. So they were like, we're going to tweet this and change the world. And then they realised that it's Twitter.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that
Um,
just really adds to the point we've made previously of we could catch a ghost in front of us.
yeah.
The
And
second
we
the
don't
video
have
goes
the
out.
credibility
Yeah,
of
yeah.
an army of a nation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just
So-
find
we're not sat in the United Nations.
No.
That's
So,
it.
yeah, our army soldiers were mocked over claims that they had found a giant yeti, also known as the abominable snowman. They claimed to have found footprints of the beast, a trail leading off into the snow at the Makalu base camp in the Himalayas. So there are a couple of pictures in this one, Loz. So when I go hit it, switch it over, so that people can see the images if they're on the video, but if they're listening, then listen to the images. The Indian Army released an official statement in 2019 and described an elusive snowman. So what they said was, for the first time, an #Indian Army mountaineering expedition team has sighted mysterious footprints of mythical beast Yeti measuring 32 by 15 inches close to
Jesus.
Makalu base camp on the 9th of April 2019. This elusive snowman has only been sighted at Makalu Burren National Park in the past. Some taunted the statement, responding with pictures of footprints claiming to be belonging to Bigfoot, whilst others were less than impressed. One person said, really hope this is a joke. This is supposed to be a smart and intelligent force. Okay, random one person. What if they're telling the truth, though?
Yeah, mate.
Like,
Fucking.
you know.
How big
What if
did they
that-
say the feet were?
So the feet were 32 inches by 15 inches.
So it's
So he's
even
just
bigger
walking
than
around
the
like
ones.
like a 2005 state of the art LCD TV on his feet. Fucking
Unbelievable.
ridiculous, mate.
That's mad, isn't it? So, Lozzie, if you shoot across for a second and scroll down, you'll see the first image. And you can even see, like, the stride. Look at the stride.
Yes. So are they hiking poles that they're using to kind of measure
Yes,
the distance between
yeah.
them? Okay.
So the Indian Army was excited by the footprints they found. If you're right, this is if you're ever excited by something, don't put it on the internet because the internet will grasp
Your
it, crush
dreams will
it,
be
and kill it.
shattered.
Yeah. The idea of a fearsome and a giant ape-like creature has long crept into the world of common myths and legends, but there is no evidence such creatures exist. Some scientists think the animal rumored to be lurking in the Himalayan mountains could be a subspecies of the brown bear. But if it is a subspecies of the brown bear that
Have you not found
people have named the Yeti, then the Yeti exists.
Yeah.
It's just a misidentified
Yeah.
to an extent, but
It hasn't been misidentified though, because you think, how did any of these animals get their names? Someone's named them. Someone's seen it as a fucking Yeti. Well, there you go. Then it's a fucking Yeti.
Yeah.
That's what it
That's
is.
a fair
It's just his name.
So Britannica explains, at certain gaits, as in GAITS, bears place the hind foot partly over the imprint of the forefoot, thus making a very large imprint that looks deceptively like an enormous human footprint position in the opposite direction. So that explains the footprint we saw in Rendlesham Forest. It was a bear.
there's
Nice.
only one of those then.
Well, to be fair, I did say it was a barefoot. So
You did.
there we go.
That's what I thought you meant. Ideas such as a creature like this existing are not exclusive to Indian folklore, but are frequently seen in the Western myths as well. In 1951, British explorer Eric Shipton was trying to find an alternate route up the world's tallest mountain, Mount Everest, when he stumbled across a large footprint. The word Yeti comes from the local Sherpa for wild man. So now if you scroll down again, you'll see the tweet. And you will see some of the imagery associated with it. So it's a large foot, we've got a trail, and we've got a nice picture of the Indian Army mountaineering expedition for Makalu in 2019. So
Okay.
Don't look very
So,
happy.
I believe you. Hashtag Indian Army.
the bottom photo to the right. Yeah, with the trail. Is he just hopping then? There's nothing walks like, you know what I mean? Right in front. They would be offset, wouldn't they?
Well, we don't know the Yeti's gate. Did the guy who literally specialises in bipedal movement and walking have anything to say about this, Scott?
So, a lot of footprints, according to the guy, have
Nice.
they show a very strange gait that is almost not impossible, but would be very difficult to fake or replicate for a human.
Right.
So in a lot of cases, they've got both very large steps and strides, but also a very strange sort of weight distribution compared to something that we could do. Obviously, due to the fact that they're a much larger creature with a much larger center of mass and a different structured center of mass.
Okay.
Which does also lead into, I don't know if you've got it in the list of things to look at, the Patterson Gimlin film.
No, I haven't.
So
Which I
that's
should do. Is that the really famous?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I fucked up there.
Probably the most famous bit of Bigfoot
Yeah.
media.
Fucked that one off. No, we'll get to that. We'll do it now if you want. Go on, continue.
So in that, essentially, obviously the Patterson Gimlin film is the video of a supposed Bigfoot walking through a forest in America.
Yeah.
Now that's been widely debated over the years.
Sorry, which will inevitably be the thumbnail. Continue.
That's been widely debated through the years as to the authenticity of it, the legitimacy behind them creating it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that we spoke about in the interview I did was how sort of the steps would be on the terrain it was filmed on would be almost impossible for someone to do consistently and well versed, to the extent that they then had I want to say it was Disney at the time, their stunt performers and their special effects performers review the footage, who also essentially said, yeah, that's not doable.
Right.
Which I think adds quite a bit of credibility that, the top production houses that were essentially making fake things like
Yeah.
that, said they couldn't do it that convincingly.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. And so it was because of the terrain.
It's
Is
the
that
terrain.
not just a forest, though? Just
It's a forest,
floor?
but it was sort of a uneven, stony sort of forest floor.
Right.
Just sort of the way it was leveled would mean walking with a consistent gait would be very difficult for something that didn't have that naturally.
Okay,
Right,
Loz, can you
okay,
just pull that image up for a second? If you just bring us back to the forefront, and then pull up that image, that'd be amazing. So, okay, so because did it have anything to do with the fact that it was a stony ground and the thought that this person was barefoot? Because could they not have like a suit on with shoes?
So the suit is another big point of it. Obviously, the big point is that it was a gorilla suit.
Yeah.
Which is very strongly denied. So the suit in question would have such a strange level of detail that, again, top production houses said they couldn't replicate at the time. Like when you actually watch the footage in varying stages and varying, qualities, because there's hundreds of different versions of it available online. But if you find the more sort of authentic and original ones, you tend to see muscle tension, which obviously in a suit would be really difficult to do leg movements and muscle movements to an accurate representation.
Interesting.
Wow.
And I guess that's where this guy comes into it because he's got an interest in muscle tension.
Yeah,
so that's the imagery.
He, spoiler for the interview, firmly believes this is legitimate.
Okay.
Because of, again, you just see the sort of the stone floor around it, and just how uneven that would be to walk on, and just to consistently walk on.
Yeah.
Can we get the footage? Is there a video that we can watch?
I'll leave a link down below on YouTube if you want to watch it. We're going to watch it, but at risk of being copyright claimed, I won't include this in the podcast. But what I'll do is we'll come back in a second and we're going to tell you what we've seen and what we think. Okay, so we've just watched it. Right, what do we think? I'll sound off first. Initially seeing it was like, oh, there's a bit of a chills kind of thing with, holy shit, is that an actual Bigfoot? I've never seen that footage. I've only ever seen the still. I've never seen the footage. The only thing for me, which again, if you're on YouTube, is linked down below, but you can literally just Google this footage and I'm sure you'll find it in no time at all. It looked like a dude going out for a casual stroll. Like it was the way that thing was walking was really strange.
Yeah, not
and
a
had
single
very
fuck.
long arms.
Not a single fuck was given in them strides, mate.
But the sass in Sasquatch.
That's it, literally.
What do we think?
So I really like the Patterson Gimlin film. There's just a lot about it that I think the more you look into it and the more you sort of look into the very minor details of it really stand out. So another thing that they've said about that film in general is that the creature walking in it does things that at the time they didn't know bipedal creatures did. So there are certain like ape-like creatures like that they have since discovered have very specific ways of doing things and very specific movements, very specific, muscle tension and that sort of thing. And it's present in that film, but wasn't discovered until 20 years later by science.
Right.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I do see what you mean. Like, he's got pretty fire quads.
Yeah.
He
ain't skipping leg day.
Nah.
No. When was that footage from?
That was 1967.
What were they out filming for?
That's a good
Bigfoots.
question. I want to say it was. I want to say they were actually out trying to find Bigfoots.
Ooh.
Ah.
Now, that's where I start getting a little
But then,
bit of...
But they went to the site of a load of Bigfoot sightings. That was a famous Bigfoot location.
So it fell in their lap.
Essentially, that was filmed in Bluff Creek, which I think you spoke about.
Yeah, I
Right,
did. Yeah,
okay.
but then
Earlier.
again, you know, but that's like saying if we one day
Yeah, no, it's
finally
true.
capture a
It's
ghost,
very
it's like,
true.
oh, and they were looking for ghosts.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like, oh yeah, no, actually, sorry, we were in a haunted hotel and we were doing a hotel room review, and so that adds credibility because we weren't looking for it, so we can't.
No,
we can't
I
knock
I do see what you mean, but how much more credibility does it add if they were just out like
Oh, if they were just
analyzing
like,
trees or something?
yeah, or if they were sent there from the company to film how the loggers were getting on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean,
I mean,
but
I would be
other thing
more
to think-
inclined to believe it quicker.
yeah,
The other key thing I think is it was 1967. You had to go out with a full-on camera. Like
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like
Yeah.
now where you can just whip your phone out and film
true.
a Bigfoot.
yeah.
It was. This is the intent. We're going here with limited reel as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any like more present sightings of like Bigfoot with like video evidence and that? Because it's the same as like aliens and all these other things. They always seem to happen when like video quality was at its shittest, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any.
I've seen a few where people have launched drones and you see something darting behind a tree,
Right.
or somebody's catching something on their phone and it's in the distance, and again it's just like a sort of shadowy, or not shadowy, but dark mass moving behind the trees.
Right.
But a lot of times it isn't the clearest quality.
But then again, even if it was clear quality, would that even add any credibility?
Yeah,
Because with
this
what
is the thing.
technology that is around today, you'd be probably more inclined to believe it was more bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just can't fucking win, basically. Like,
No, you can't. Has there ever been a? I'm literally going to Google this live on the pod.
That's
Has there
it.
ever been? Oh no, actually, no. I don't need to do that because I literally have a story. I was going to Google. Has there ever been a Sasquatch sighting in the UK? And there has.
wow.
My mum, my aunties, and my uncle.
Oh yeah.
Hang on a
You
minute.
had that
Wait,
correct.
they've seen it, right? You're not calling your mum, aunties, and uncles Sasquatches,
no.
are you?
They claim, right, when they were kids, they were camping in the garden, and they heard rustling outside and like tapping the tents. They ran out, and they looked down the road, and they saw this giant ape-like creature, like shaggy hair all the way down, like from
Right.
head to toe, run off into the marshes.
Wow.
And they
Okay.
all swear fucking blind they saw it, and there was like 6 of them.
I actually have a strange story myself, right? And obviously, I'm not claiming it's a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch or whatever it was, right?
Yay.
But when I was getting a ride back on the bus from college, right? There's a specific road that we drive past, and there's a big sort of crater in a field, right? And it's a few miles back. It's quite a big crater, and at the top of this crater, I saw 2 ridiculously tall figures walking across the top of this crater. And it wasn't a shadow because of the way it was standing, but it was so far away that no human could look that tall. Now, I didn't think at this time it was like, oh, it's a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. I thought, what the fuck is that? Like, she had literally just never really thought too much about it. But could it have been a Bigfoot / Sasquatch
There you
in
go.
the UK?
Might have been.
Never know. When you next come down, we'll drive past it. I'll show you what I mean, and you'll know what I mean by if you saw a person up there, you would distinctively know that that's the person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, no, that sounds good. I know I've been saying it for ages, and I know that we will at some point. I think we're probably going to start with Black Shuck, but I do want to implement cryptid hunting into... do you know what? We've done a whole episode on Bigfoot. I think that's the first time the word cryptid has been used in this episode.
Yeah.
I think you
That's
started with
impressive.
cryptid.
I think you said it in the first
Oh, did I?
sentence, and then
Yeah.
again hasn't been mentioned since.
I
Fucking
think
hell.
you started it.
I've impressed myself. Not that that's anything to go by, but yeah, no, I definitely want to. I want to get over to Loch Ness, but then I want to go over to America. I want to get to Point Pleasant. I want to do a national park, either go missing, get
Big
abducted
up
by
the Mothman.
aliens, or
Get put in a
get
fruit
taken
roll up.
away in a sleeping. Exactly,
That's it.
by Bigfoot. Right. let's round off the episode with 10 tips from an experienced Sasquatch researcher. Because if we're going to hunt, we're going to need to know what we're doing, right?
Definitely.
Solid.
So, Steve Mojo Wilkins, okay, from the Washington Sasquatch research team, gave comonews.com 10 tips for beginning research. All right. So we're gonna digest them right now and see if they can help us. All right. Tip number 1. Before beginning your field research, learn all you can about the subject. Where are the reported encounters near you? What are their behaviors? What signs should you look for? Okay, so that's tip number 1. There he is.
Hey.
Mojo.
I don't know. I
Stevie
trust him.
Wilkes.
He looks trustworthy.
Exactly. Okay, here we go. Tip number 2. Put together a team, even if it's just you and one other person. Bring equipment to document your experiences, camera, audio recorders. Your equipment will change and evolve over time. So we're already well away with that.
We're 3 for 3.
We're fucking smashing it. So tip number 3, decide on your goals. What are you researching for, man? What do you expect to achieve? For many researchers, having an actual sighting is a goal. Also, many aspire to document a sighting with good photographic or video evidence. So there we go. I would say that would be our goal, to video a Sasquatch. Yeah. Tip number 4, respect private property and do not research on it without permission. There are countless parks and endless acres of national forest land where you can research, yeah? So don't, break into a mansion if you think they're housing a Sasquatch. Tip number 5, researching is fun year-round, but winter, less productive and more difficult, yeah? Fuck winter off. Try to concentrate your research in the spring, summer, and fall. Fall is the best time because we suspect it is mating season. Ooh. And also the time of the annual salmon run in the Pacific Northwest. This tends to be more active time. Now, call me a conspiracy theorist. I think Steve wants the winter to himself.
Yeah.
I think he wants all of the locations free of other hunters. Researchers, sorry.
Them snow footprints would be easier to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the spring when they've melted.
I mean, I do think with that, depending on how these creatures work and if they are cave dwelling and
hibernating,
there is a reasonable chance winter, which means they're stationary.
Winter is coming.
They ain't running away from you if they're asleep. Just go stick your head in a cave and hope there's not a bear.
Wait, no. True. Do not just start poking your heads in random caves in the winter. It sounds like a death trap.
Yeah. We don't endorse that, Scott, but Scott does. Tepper's Paranormal. Poking your head in bear caves. Tip number 6, when you research and discover potential evidence, i.e. tracks, pictures, vocalizations, try to debunk it and don't always assume everything is Bigfoot related. Try to find other explanations for evidence you find. Document all your findings with picture or video. That's good.
There we go.
Can I just say, this is the guy we're talking about in this photograph, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
He's got a very questionable sense of camouflage.
Camo jacket, jeans, and a bright yellow t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's like, look, if I'm going to get shot, I'm taking it to the torso.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Tip number 7, when you have a researched outing, don't expect to find evidence each time you go out, all right? In fact, prepare to fail 95% of the time. Do not get discouraged. That's true.
Yep.
You have to be.
We can relate with that.
To fail, but it's like, listen, yeah. If you go out for 100 hours, expect 95 of them to be fuck all. Number 8, always tell someone where you'll be researching and when you're expected to return. Do this each and every time you go out.
That seems
very wise.
Very
Very wise. Tip number 9. Always be safe in the field. Your travels may put you on unsafe mountain roads, or you may find yourself hiking on steep terrain with unsafe footing. Never take unnecessary chances or push your limits. You should always plan for the worst. Also remember, the weather can change in an instant.
And bears.
And bears.
That should be added on to the end.
I mean, that's not something we really have to worry about too much in the UK.
We're not
bears.
as bothered by bears.
You know, we
But
might
if
see
we
a
go
badger.
over there,
Yeah, if we go over there, then bears like mountain. They got like mountain lions and everything, don't they?
I mean, you can go every 6 foot something will try and kill you in America.
yeah.
Wow.
Mostly people.
On the final tip, look at how proud this general store is to be stocking 7-Up. Just a massive sign for 7-Up.
They've been asking them for
I love it.
years. Can we have some branding for 7-Up for our store, please?
I mean, I'm not being funny. We've all been there, driving down the long, lonely country road, seeing a shop. Oh, does that sell 7-Up? There's no question with this place. You know it does.
Yeah, you know it does.
You just drive past.
Appetite.
You drive past, went, oh, fancy the Sprite.
Tip number 10. Have fun researching. After all, it's just like camping. Throw some good food on the barbecue and enjoy the outdoors.
That does sound like a lot of fun to me. It
Absolutely
does sound like a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I'm more than happy.
We're going to be
take a trip.
camping this weekend.
That's it.
We are. We are indeed.
That is, sorry, I just had to think when this gets released. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Yeah. Take a little. Don't know. I definitely want to cook food. What should we cook food on? Like,
To be fair,
like a gas burner, or should we take a barbecue?
I think I've got a little gas burner. I
Oof.
think my nan's got one.
Bang it.
Nice.
I can speak to her to see if it's still functioning.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. I also still
Definitely.
need to acquire myself a tent. But
I mean,
if
that
not,
is
I'm gonna
key.
wild man it.
That
Or
would be
Sasquatch
cool.
it.
Wild man it.
That's it.
If you genuinely don't have a tent
Yeah.
by Saturday,
Yeah.
let me know and I will bring my hammock and you
Oh.
can hammock between 2 trees and that would be pretty fucking gangster.
I would love to do it as long as the weather allows me to do it.
As far as I'm aware, so far it's going to be okay. But
Right,
because it's
okay.
going to be the Halloween special,
Actually, to
we
be
have
fair-
no fucking choice.
To be fair, I do have a tarp in the car, so I could proper wild man it just under a tarp on a hammock.
Can we just remind ourselves of the time Lozzie had a crisp packet?
It's true. I was in a
Yeah,
Walker's
sleeping
crisp
bag.
packet for warmth. It didn't
but
provide
To
any.
be fair, the temperature's been very nice like the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like
Let me just.
mid-December. I think we did that.
14th of December, it was
There you
horrendous.
go.
Yeah.
That is fair.
Let
So
me-
I'm
let me
hoping the
just have a look.
temperature won't be as bad. But
Okay,
yeah,
so we've got rain on Saturday.
don't trust
Hang on.
Amazon listings. That's all I'm going to say.
To be fair, I've got rope, I've got tarp.
Just give me the rope.
Oh, no, it says, hang on, it says rain, but when you add, oh, it's just in the morning of Saturday. We're golden.
Nice.
Golden brown.
Good for
Torrential
looking for
Sunday.
footprints there.
Nah, we're fucking solid. We are literally solid. After 10 o'clock, no rain. And then all the way through. It is going to get to a low of around 5 degrees.
Oh, that's toasty. That's fine.
Yeah. Compared
That's
to what I
fine.
was
But over the
experiencing.
evening, by the time we get there, it's going to be about 9. And then and then lows of 5. We're going to be golden, man. But yeah, it's going to be like a paranormal investigation camping hybrid. I can't wait. Wait. So, yeah, boy. But, yeah, they're the tips for hunting. We're not going to be hunting Bigfoot because I don't believe there's one in there. But, yeah, that has been the Bigfoot episode. Thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for bringing the expertise.
That's it.
Let me just finish with something quite interesting. An interesting question to each of us. We'll start with Lozzie, then Bailey, then Scott, then myself. Does Bigfoot exist?
I personally don't think it does. I just think that the footage has got some merits that we talked about earlier on. But I just feel like the creature is too nonchalant in that footage. Like it almost looks at him as if like, there's a couple of geezers there. No worries. But when you look at other footage of other animals, like not similar size because it's massive, but even if you took apes, they would not react like that. And if that's like meant to be its closest counterpart, I feel like it still share like the same threat detection. Like, oh shit, there's someone there. It didn't seem startled at all, which is what I was like. I don't know. Plus, the footage is really grainy, but that's from the 1960s. So what do you expect? But for me, no.
So are you saying, just to clarify, are you saying you think that video is fake, or you don't, or you think the whole Bigfoot thing in general is fake?
Both. That'd be a strong both for me.
Okay. Oof. So Bailey, what do you think?
For myself, when it comes to Bigfoot, I think it's kind of like, why couldn't it exist?
Yeah.
So it's like, if it is just a giant animal, pretty much, isn't it? So there's a lot of reason why it could be legit. I don't necessarily believe the footage that we've seen. Like Lozzie was saying, it was very chill, calm, and the way he was just strolling about on a Sunday morning or whatever. But yeah, I think I'm open to the idea of a Bigfoot, because I just don't see any reason why it shouldn't exist, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about you, Scott?
So, I've got very mixed thoughts on Bigfoot.
Interesting.
I think there's something, because there's a lot of, reports of footprints and just sightings from people, tribes, just groups from around the world of very, not identical, but consistently similar creatures. I think in America specifically, the amount of open space they have.
Yeah.
Something that, again, was discussed in the interview I did was, how often do you see the remains of a bear? Or for that matter, how often do you see a bear? And it's, there's, based on the numbers they estimate for there to be Bigfoots, there are a couple of thousand. They're they're a very long life, but low population sort of creature, apparently. Whereas there's, hundreds of thousands of bears, I think, in America. So on that sort of basis, if there were, say, 100 within a state and there are 10,000 bears, I doubt you see a bear every day. So if there is
I see where you're going with that, yeah.
If bears can hide within the forest and live within the forest without being seen, captured, etc. regularly, a much smaller population of a creature could definitely do that, which is one of the things I think. And again, the sheer size of the national parks.
Yeah.
The amount of things that could be hiding within the cave systems or just within the parks on a whole. I think there's a lot of potential. The film, I'm sort of 50-50 on it, because on the one hand, there's a few things in it that really stand out as, I don't know how that could not be real. But then at the same time, there are other bits, like, again, how nonchalantly it's walking across the open area, the way it turns and looks and then doesn't really change anything. Because, if that was a creature, I'm taking a deer as an example, and it's a very different sort of creature, but if that was walking along, it turned and saw you, it would bolt. Whereas the creature in this turned, saw the cameramen, and then just kept going at the same speed.
Or maybe he just thought, I could fucking take him. And then just just carries on.
Yeah, but I think that's where I stand on it.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. Personally, I'm of the same ilk. I do believe that, there's enough space out there. And I've never thought of the population idea or thought process. That's really interesting. If there are lesser populated species, how rare it would be to sight one, etc., etc. Plus, the national parks are so fucking expansive. It's insane. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Let us know down below if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. If you're listening, email in dutystories@gmail.com. And that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much. If you just watch us, just a little reminder, we are on podcast platforms if you want to listen to us as well. So, go and do that. All right. Thank you, guys. Follow, share, all that good stuff, and we'll see you very soon. We ain't got an outro yet. Well, we did like that, but that doesn't feel appropriate for Bigfoot. See ya!